The Nexus Station's security checkpoint had been designed by committee, which explained why it took 3 hours to process a being carrying nothing more dangerous than a diplomatic pouch and an attitude problem. Ambassador Reeves stood in the scanning chamber, arms spread wide, watching Chief Security Officer Vex Thul's facial tentacles writhe in what she'd learned to recognize as bureaucratic distress. The sonic resonator indicates bone density consistent with a weapon-grade skeleton, Vex Thul announced, his voice carrying the particular whine of someone whose day had gone sideways before lunch. Weapon-grade? Reeves tilted her head, genuinely curious. What exactly makes a skeleton weapon-grade? Structural integrity beyond normal biological parameters. Your bones could be used as clubs. So could yours. That's rather the point of bones, isn't it? Vex Thul's assistant, a nervous Quillen named Zep, who seemed to exist in a permanent state of apologetic panic, shuffled through his datapad. The regulations clearly state that any biological component capable of inflicting harm must be declared and registered. Right. Reeves lowered her arms. Should I start with my teeth? Because I have 32 of them, and at least 4 are specifically designed for tearing. The scanning chamber fell silent, except for the hum of detection equipment that had apparently never encountered anything quite like human physiology. Zep's whiskers twitched as he cross-referenced something in his files. Your bite force registers at... This can't be correct. He squinted at the display. 162 pounds per square inch? That's actually on the low end. I grind my teeth when I'm stressed. Vex Thul made a note on his tablet with the grim efficiency of someone documenting a natural disaster. Proceed with a muscular density analysis. The next scanner hummed to life, painting Reeves in a grid of blue light that made her look like a 3-dimensional blueprint. She'd been through customs on 17 different worlds, but none of them had treated her skeletal structure like a violation of interstellar law. Anomalous reading in the lower extremities, the scanner's automated voice reported. Subject possesses impact-capable appendages with reinforced striking surfaces. Over 97% of viewers here are watching without subscribing. Don't be one of them. Hit that subscribe button right now and join the journey. Every click helps us grow stronger, and you'll never miss the next epic story. You mean her feet? Zep whispered. I mean her feet, the scanner confirmed with mechanical certainty. Reeves looked down at her perfectly ordinary diplomatic shoes. Is there a problem with my feet? Your heel bone is essentially a biological hammer, Vex Thul said, as if delivering a terminal diagnosis. And your knuckles. The scanner reads them as battering rams. Well, yes, that's what they're for. That's what they're for? Evolution, Chief. Knuckles that couldn't break things would be pretty useless knuckles. Zep scrolled frantically through his regulations. There's no provision for inherently weaponized biology. The forms assume weapons are separate from the being carrying them. Apparently, your forms never met a human. Reeves stretched, enjoying the way both aliens flinched when her joints popped. Should I mention the fingernails? Please don't, Vex Thul muttered, but his professional curiosity had clearly kicked in. What about the fingernails? Retractable claws, essentially. Self-sharpening, capable of piercing soft tissue and gouging hard surfaces. Watch. She demonstrated by scraping a thin curl of metal from the scanner housing. Zep's whiskers drooped. That's reinforced titanium composite. Handy for opening packages. The security chief's tentacles had gone from writhing to rhythmic slapping against his temples. The muscular system scan indicates this is impossible. Your grip strength could crush a Vorthak windpipe. Could it? I've never tried. Are Vorthak windpipes particularly fragile? Not particularly, no. Huh. Well, I do rock climb on weekends. Vexthul looked like a being who'd opened what he thought was a box of documents and found a live plasma grenade. You recreationally exercise your crushing capabilities? Among other things, there's also running, which trains the pursuit reflexes, swimming, which optimizes the hunting stroke mechanics, martial arts, which, well, that one's probably obvious. You train for combat, as a hobby. We call it staying in shape, but sure. Zep had given up on his data pad and was staring at Reeves with the expression of someone watching their universe reorganize itself into something considerably less safe. The thermal scan shows elevated temperature readings in the extremities. That would be my circulation. Keeps the weapon systems operational in hostile environments. Weapons systems? Sorry, hands and feet. Old habit. The scanner beeped again, apparently having discovered something new to be alarmed about. Cardiovascular analysis indicates sustained performance capability under extreme stress conditions. Subject possesses redundant oxygen delivery systems optimized for extended physical conflict. It means she can fight for a long time without getting tired, Zep translated weakly. It means I jog, Reeves corrected, though I suppose the cardiovascular benefits transfer to other activities. Vexthul's tentacles had gone completely still, which in Kethmaran body language indicated either deep thought or complete system shutdown. What other activities? Running down prey, mostly. Humans are persistence hunters. We don't catch things by being faster. We catch them by never stopping. Eventually, everything else gets tired and gives up. Persistence hunters. The words came out like a prayer to a malevolent deity. Very effective strategy. Works on most mammals, many reptiles, and apparently galactic security protocols. Zep looked at his scanner readings, then at Reeves, then back at his readings. Your brain scan shows enhanced pattern recognition, tactical planning capabilities, and what does creative problem, solving under resource constraints mean? It means if you take away our tools, we make new ones. If you take away our materials, we improvise. If you take away our options. Reeves shrugged. We find options you didn't know existed. The security chief's composure finally cracked. You're telling me that your entire species is biologically optimized for warfare? Warfare, survival, competition, cooperation, depends on the context. We're generalists. Generalist apex predators with tool-making capabilities and persistence hunting behaviors. Vexthul sat down heavily, his chair creaking under the weight of existential dread. And we invited you to a diplomatic conference. You did. Very nice invitation, actually. Embossed seal, premium paper. Someone put real effort into it. Zep's voice came out as a squeak. What were we thinking? You were thinking humans looked harmless compared to the Vorthax and their plasma cannons, or the Zephyrians and their molecular disruptors. You made a reasonable assessment based on incomplete data. Incomplete data? You assumed weapons had to be carried separately from their users. Reeves gestured to herself from head to toe. This is what a weapon looks like when it evolves instead of being manufactured. The scanning chamber's silence stretched until Vexthul finally spoke. The regulations don't cover this scenario. No, I don't imagine they would. Your regulations were written by beings who developed technology to overcome their biological limitations. We developed technology to enhance our biological advantages. So what do we do now? Reeves picked up her diplomatic pouch and checked the time on her chronometer, another device that, she realized, probably looked suspiciously like a targeting computer to sufficiently paranoid eyes. Now? You let me through to the conference, and we discuss trade agreements like civilized beings. Unless you'd prefer to explain to your superiors why you detained Earth's ambassador over the dangerous nature of human anatomy. Vexthal's tentacles resumed their agitated writhing. And if we refuse, then you refuse. Earth has other trading partners. Her smile contained just enough teeth to remind him what those were for. But I should mention, the rare Earth shipments your manufacturing sector depends on, they're scheduled to arrive next week. It would be unfortunate if there were delays in diplomatic relations. The security chief looked at his scanner readings one more time, then at Reeves, then made the executive decision that would haunt his dreams for months. Welcome to Nexus Station, Ambassador. Please proceed to Conference Level 7. Thank you, Chief. Oh, and Zep? The Quillen's ears perked up hopefully. Next time you're updating those regulations, you might want to add a footnote about humans. We're not exactly standard biological architecture. As the security doors hissed open, Reeves could hear Vexthal behind her, speaking into his communicator with the tone of someone reporting a containment breach. Priority message to the conference committee. We may have a problem. The Confluence Trade Committee's emergency session had been called so hastily that half the delegates were still in their sleep cycles, which explained why the Morphean representative kept phasing in and out of visible spectrum, and the crystalline from Vega Prime was emitting stress fractures. Trade Director Kosinarek had convened worse meetings, but none that had started with a security alert about weaponized bone density. She tapped her ceremonial gavel, a gift from the long-extinct Harbinger civilization, against the podium, and wondered if it qualified as a weapon under current regulations. The floor recognizes Counselor Thresh from the Hegemony Defense Bureau, she announced, her voice carrying the particular exhaustion of someone whose carefully planned day had been demolished by interdimensional paperwork. Thresh, a towering Vorthak whose species had evolved from communal hive insects, clicked his mandibles in agitation. Director, we need clarification on the security incident. Our initial intelligence suggested Terrans were soft-bodied bipeds with primitive metallurgy. That assessment remains accurate, confirmed Database Administrator Quintel, whose crystalline matrix body pulsed with archived information. Earth's military technology ranks below 47 other spacefaring civilizations. No energy shields, no plasma weaponry, no gravitational manipulators. Then explain this. Thresh projected a hologram of Ambassador Reeves' security scan. The scanner classified her entire musculoskeletal system as military-grade hardware. The Morphean delegate, currently oscillating between visible and infrared, managed to stabilize long enough to speak. Perhaps the scanners malfunctioned? Our people phase through solid matter. We don't understand how flesh can be considered threatening. The scanners didn't malfunction, came a new voice from the chamber's upper gallery. Dr. Veltara, the station's chief xenobiologist, had apparently been monitoring the session. Protocol dictated she wait for formal recognition, but protocol had already taken several direct hits today. I've been reviewing the biological data. Humans are architecturally interesting. Director Kosinarek's patients, already strained, developed additional stress fractures. Please elaborate, Doctor. Preferably without triggering another security alert. Their bone structure isn't just dense, it's optimized for impact distribution. A human punch delivers force comparable to our industrial construction tools. Veltara descended to the main floor, her notes flickering across a portable display. Their cardiovascular system can maintain peak performance for hours. Their brains process threat assessment and tactical adaptation faster than our combat algorithms. Counselor Yithmar from the Centauri Banking Collective, who had been silent until now, activated his vocalization unit with the mechanical precision of someone calculating catastrophic financial loss. Doctor, are you suggesting we've extended trade partnerships to a warrior species? Worse than that. Veltara's tentacles arranged themselves in what other species had learned to recognize as academic excitement, though it bore an unsettling resemblance to predatory positioning. Warriors specialize in combat. Humans specialize in survival, which includes combat, but also environmental adaptation, resource acquisition, social manipulation, technological innovation, and reproductive success under adverse conditions. The chamber fell silent except for the background hum of life support systems and Quintel's internal data processing, which had accelerated to a frequency that made nearby equipment vibrate. Social manipulation? Director Kosinarek repeated. They call it diplomacy, but the neurological pathways are identical to those used for pack hunting. They instinctively identify hierarchies, exploit weaknesses, form temporary alliances, and coordinate group attacks on problems. Thresh's mandibles stopped clicking. In Vorthak body language, this indicated either deep contemplation or imminent violence. Group attacks on problems? Their entire civilization is based on collaborative problem-solving. They encounter obstacles, they adapt, they face limitations, they innovate around them, they meet other species. Veltara gestured to the assembled delegates. They integrate economically until separation becomes impossible. The database administrator's crystalline structure pulsed red, the universal color of accessing restricted files. Reviewing Earth's trade agreements from the past solar cycle. Terran corporations now supply rare Earth elements to 43 systems. Terran agricultural products feed 18 colony worlds. Terran manufacturing components are integrated into 71% of current galactic infrastructure. 71%? Counselor Yithmar's vocalization unit crackled with static. How did we not notice this economic penetration? Because they made themselves indispensable gradually, Quintel replied, data streams cascading across his surface. Small contracts, competitive pricing, reliable delivery, standard market integration protocols. Standard for whom? Dr. Veltara asked. Most species develop interstellar capability, then attempt to conquer or withdraw. Humans developed interstellar capability and immediately began making themselves useful. The Morphean delegate flickered back into visible spectrum, his form radiating confusion. Useful how? They solve problems we didn't know we had. Terran engineers redesigned the atmospheric processors on Kepler Station, improved efficiency by 30%. Terran agricultural specialists increased food production on 7 worlds. Terran medical researchers developed treatments for 3 previously incurable conditions. Thresh's massive form had gone completely still. They're conquering through competence. Conquering implies force. This is more like absorption. They become part of the system, then improve the system, then become essential to the system. Veltara's excitement was becoming genuinely alarming. It's elegant, really. Why destroy civilizations when you can make them dependent on you? Director Kosinarek's gavel had somehow found its way into her hand again, though she didn't remember picking it up. The weight felt reassuring, which probably said something deeply concerning about her psychological state. What are our options? Militarily? Limited. Quintel's data projection showed fleet compositions and tactical assessments. Earth's defensive capabilities are modest, but they're integrated into supply chains for 47 different military organizations. Attacking them would cripple our own forces. Economically? Worse. Trade embargo would cause supply shortages across the galaxy within 6 months. Complete economic collapse within 2 years. Counselor Yithmar's mechanical voice had developed a distinctly panicked edge. We invited them to exploit them as a minor resource provider. Instead, we've created a scenario where they could cripple galactic civilization by simply leaving. They won't leave, Doctor, Veltara said with scientific certainty. Humans don't abandon successful ecological niches. They expand into them. The chamber's environmental systems had begun cycling faster, responding to elevated stress pheromones from multiple species. Director Kosanaric realized she was gripping her gavel hard enough to leave impressions in the metal. So what do we do? We proceed with the conference, Thresh said finally, his mandibles resuming their agitated clicking. We can't uninvite them without economic suicide, and we can't treat them as threats without confirming that we are, in fact, threatened. Enhanced monitoring? Suggested the Morphean. Monitor them doing what? Being helpful? Quintel's data streams had shifted to financial projections, all of them unpleasant. Every efficiency improvement they provide makes us more dependent. Every problem they solve creates another system we can't operate without them. Dr. Veltara was practically vibrating with academic enthusiasm. From an evolutionary biology perspective, it's fascinating. They've achieved interspecies symbiosis on a galactic scale without anyone realizing it was happening. Symbiosis? Director Kosanaric's voice had climbed several octaves. Well, parasitism might be more accurate. We benefit, they control. But the relationship is stable, so the gavel cracked. Director, Thresh said carefully, perhaps we should focus on damage control. The human ambassador is already here. We can't exactly send her back without insulting Earth's government. And insulting Earth's government would affect the rare Earth shipments. How, exactly? Counselor Yithmar inquired with mechanical precision. The question hung in recycled air that suddenly felt much thinner. Meeting adjourned, Director Kosanaric announced. Enhanced monitoring protocols are approved. Someone find me a threat assessment for beings who conquer civilizations by making them better. As the delegates filed out in various states of existential crisis, Doctor. Veltara lingered, still studying her biological data. Director? For what it's worth, I don't think the humans planned this. That's supposed to be comforting? Not really. It means this is just how they naturally behave. Veltara's tentacles arranged themselves in what might have been academic satisfaction, which suggests we're not dealing with a military strategy. We're dealing with an evolutionary one. The broken gavel hit the floor with a sound like a death knell. The observation deck's environmental controls had been malfunctioning for 3 cycles, which meant the air recycling system produced a faint humming that drove most species to distraction. Ambassador Reeves found it soothing. Apparently, humans had evolved to find rhythmic mechanical noise comforting rather than maddening, which was just another data point in what was becoming a very long list of concerning human adaptations. She stood watching the stars through reinforced viewports, while her cultural attaché examined the wall-mounted control panel with the focused attention of someone who actually understood what all those blinking lights meant. Environmental Regulation Junction Box, Marcus Chen announced, running his fingers along the panel's edges, probably installed during the station's initial construction phase. Trilithium circuit boards, standard hegemony manufacturing. Is that relevant? Dr. Veltara asked. She'd been assigned to observe the humans' normal behavioral patterns, a request that had sounded reasonable until someone pointed out that normal human behavior might itself constitute a security threat. Everything's relevant until you know what's broken. Marcus popped the access panel with a casual motion that made the xenobiologist's recording equipment chirp in alarm. Ambassador, do you have a hair clip? Reeves removed a simple metal clasp from her diplomatic hairstyle and handed it over. Planning to fix their environmental system? Planning to see why it's cycling incorrectly. Could be a simple calibration issue, could be a cascade failure in the atmospheric processing chain. Marcus bent the hair clip into a precise shape and inserted it into the circuitry. Either way, that humming is driving me insane. Dr. Veltara's tentacles twitched nervously. You're just going to repair station infrastructure? Without authorization? I'm going to diagnose the problem, Marcus corrected, connecting two circuits that apparently hadn't been talking to each other properly. Repair requires replacement parts. The humming stopped. The sudden silence felt unnatural, like the pause between lightning and thunder. Dr. Veltara checked her instruments, which confirmed that atmospheric composition had stabilized within optimal parameters for all represented species. How did you know how to do that? Basic troubleshooting methodology. Identify the symptom, trace the system, locate the deviation, implement correction. Marcus replaced the access panel, though he kept the improvised connector in place. Pretty standard engineering approach. Standard for humans. Standard for anyone who needs to keep complex systems operational in environments that actively try to kill you. Marcus caught Dr. Veltara's expression. That would be every environment, from a human perspective. Ambassador Reeves settled into one of the observation deck's chairs, which had been designed for beings significantly larger than humans. She looked like a child at the adults' table, except children generally couldn't negotiate interstellar trade agreements. Marcus, show Doctor Veltara how you opened that panel. With the hair clip? With your hands. Marcus held up his hands, rotating them to show the articulated fingers, the opposable thumbs, the complex joint structure that allowed for precise manipulation. 12 degrees of freedom per hand, fine motor control down to millimeter precision, grip strength variable from delicate enough to handle electronic components to forceful enough to crush most materials. Demonstrate, Doctor, Veltara said, her recording equipment humming with interest. Marcus picked up a stylus from the table. Standard station equipment made of reinforced polymer designed to withstand accidental damage from most species' manipulator appendages. He held it lightly between thumb and forefinger, then gradually increased pressure until the stylus cracked, then crumbled, then became powder. Same hand, same fingers, he explained, dusting off his palm. Just applied differently. Dr. Veltara's internal organs made a sound like grinding crystal. Your manipulator appendages can transition seamlessly between precision tool use and destructive force application. That's what hands do. Marcus seemed genuinely puzzled by her distress. How else would you interact with your environment? Most species develop specialized appendages, delicate manipulation or gross motor function, not both. That would be terribly limiting. Ambassador Reeves stood and walked to the viewport, placing her palm against the reinforced transparent material. Humans had to develop generalist solutions. Our ancestors couldn't afford to specialize. Because of environmental pressure? Because of environmental variability. Earth doesn't have just one environment. It has hundreds. Deserts, forests, mountains, oceans, tundra, jungle, grassland. Survival meant adapting to all of them. Marcus had found another malfunctioning system. Apparently, the gravity generators were operating at slight variance from optimal parameters. He was already examining the control interface with the methodical attention of someone for whom broken technology was a personal insult. This explains the economic integration pattern, Doctor, Veltara muttered, more to herself than to the humans. You encounter new systems. You automatically begin optimizing them. We encounter inefficiency. We fix it, Marcus corrected. It's reflexive at this point. He'd apparently identified the gravity regulation problem because the deck plates beneath their feet shifted slightly as the artificial gravity field stabilized. The correction was subtle enough that most species wouldn't notice. But Dr. Veltara's instruments registered the improvement immediately. You just casually repaired another system. I just prevented a potential cascade failure that would have affected artificial gravity throughout this entire section of the station. Marcus looked genuinely concerned. Your maintenance protocols are severely inadequate. These systems should be checked every cycle not just when they fail completely. Station maintenance isn't your responsibility. Station safety is everyone's responsibility. Marcus turned to Ambassador Reeves. We should probably mention this in our formal report. If their infrastructure maintenance is this poor throughout the facility. Already noted, Reeves confirmed, though I suspect our hosts would prefer we didn't point out systemic failures in their engineering. Dr. Veltara's recording equipment was now documenting everything with the frantic intensity of scientific instruments confronting data that didn't fit established models. You are unconsciously terraforming the station. We're unconsciously what now? Terraforming. Modifying the environment to better suit your needs. Every system you optimize makes this facility more compatible with human operational preferences. Ambassador Reeves and Marcus exchanged the sort of look that passes between humans who've just realized they've been caught doing something they weren't aware they were doing. Is that problematic? Reeves asked carefully. It means that everywhere humans go, they leave that space slightly more human-compatible than they found it. Not intentionally, just as a natural consequence of their presence. Dr. Veltara's tentacles were arranged in what could charitably be called scientific fascination, and less charitably called existential horror. Over time, integrated human populations would essentially convert alien spaces into human spaces without anyone noticing it was happening. Marcus had apparently found a third system that needed attention, something involving the air filtration processors. His hands were already working on the control interface with the unconscious competence of someone who'd been fixing broken things since childhood. Would that be a bad thing? He asked, not looking up from his work. I mean, more efficient systems benefit everyone, right? The question hung in increasingly. Well-regulated air, while Dr. Veltara contemplated a universe where human helpfulness was actually a form of inadvertent colonization. Dr. Veltara, Ambassador Reeves said gently, I think you should probably report this to your superiors. Report what, exactly? That humans fix things? Report that humans can't help but fix things, whether they're invited to or not, whether they're supposed to or not, whether anyone wants them to or not. Marcus looked up from the air filtration control panel, where he'd apparently just improved atmospheric processing efficiency by another 15%. That makes us sound ominous. Marcus, Reeves said with infinite patience, we've just accidentally demonstrated that we can't spend 20 minutes in an alien facility without fundamentally improving its operational parameters. How is that not ominous? The attaché considered this while putting the finishing touches on what was now the most efficiently regulated observation deck in the station's history. Point taken. The conference chamber had been designed to accommodate the galaxy's most diplomatically challenging species, which was why it featured atmospheric zones for 7 different breathing mixtures, seating arrangements for entities ranging from microscopic collectives to massive gas giant dwellers, and translation matrices capable of rendering concepts between civilizations that had evolved language in entirely different dimensional frameworks. What it hadn't been designed for was the revelation that one of the attendees might constitute an existential threat to galactic civilization, simply by existing in proximity to it. Trade Director Kosenarik called the session to order with a gavel that had been hastily replaced after the previous one suffered structural failure during yesterday's emergency meeting. The new one was made of compressed neutronium, theoretically indestructible, though recent events had shaken her faith in the concept of theoretical limits. The chair recognizes Earth's delegation for opening remarks. Ambassador Reeves rose from her seat with the fluid grace that Dr. Veltara's reports had classified as optimized for rapid threat response. She carried no notes, no data tablets, no technological assistance of any kind. Somehow, this made her appear more formidable than delegates who arrived with entire support staffs. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic design. "Earth appreciates the invitation to join the Confluence Trade Partnership. We look forward to mutually beneficial relationships with all member civilizations." Councillor Thresh's mandibles clicked in what observers had learned to interpret as barely controlled aggression. "Ambassador, we need to address certain irregularities in your species profile." "What sort of irregularities?" "The kind where your mere presence begins converting our infrastructure to suit your preferences." "Ah," Reeves nodded, with the understanding of someone who'd been expecting this conversation. "You're referring to Marcus's work on your environmental systems." "We're referring to unauthorized modification of station operations by beings whose biological capabilities were grossly misrepresented in your diplomatic credentials." "I don't recall misrepresenting anything. Did someone ask about our bone density? The chamber's environmental systems cycled more efficiently than they had in decades, thanks to Marcus Chen's casual afternoon of troubleshooting." The irony was not lost on anyone present. "The issue," Director Kostanaric interjected, "is not what you told us. The issue is what you failed to mention." "Such as?" Database Administrator Quintel projected a holographic display showing galactic trade statistics, such as the fact that Earth now controls supply chains essential to 43 star systems, has technical personnel integrated into infrastructure maintenance on 17 worlds, and has somehow become economically indispensable without anyone authorizing your expansion. Ambassador Reeves studied the projection with interest. "Those numbers seem accurate. Is there a problem with Earth meeting contractual obligations?" "The problem," Councillor Yithmar announced through his mechanical vocalization unit, "is that you've created a scenario where we cannot function without your continued cooperation." Yes, that's generally how successful trade relationships work. Most trade relationships don't involve one species accidentally conquering half the galaxy through competence. Conquering is a strong word. We prefer participating constructively. The silence that followed was the particular kind of quiet that occurs when an entire room full of beings realizes they're having an argument with someone who holds all the leverage and is being polite about it. Dr. Veltara activated her recording equipment, apparently having concluded that she was witnessing a pivotal moment in interspecies relations. "Ambassador, are you saying Earth deliberately planned this economic integration?" Dr. Veltara: "Earth didn't plan anything. We just did what humans always do. We found problems and fixed them. We found opportunities and took them. We found systems that needed improvement and improved them." Reeves gestured to the assembled delegates. "You invited us because you thought we were harmless. We accepted because you offered us opportunities to be useful. And now? Now you've discovered that harmless and useful aren't mutually exclusive categories." Thresh's massive form shifted forward, a movement that in most diplomatic contexts would be considered threatening. "What are your terms?" "Terms for what?" "For not destroying galactic civilization." Ambassador Reeves blinked, the first sign of genuine surprise she'd shown during the entire conference. "Counselor, why would we want to destroy galactic civilization? We just spent the last several years making it work better." "Because you could. Because we're dependent on your cooperation. Because..." Thresh's mandibles clicked frantically. "Because that's what conquest looks like in the modern age. Conquest assumes we want to control you. Control is expensive, inefficient, and generally more trouble than it's worth." Reeves moved to the chamber's central podium, a position that allowed her to address all delegates simultaneously. "We don't want to control the galaxy. We want to live in it, work in it, and occasionally fix the things that are obviously broken. What about economic leverage? Counselor Yithmar demanded. What about the supply chain dependencies? What about the fact that you could cripple our economies by simply withdrawing cooperation? We could, Reeves agreed. The same way you could cripple Earth's economy by withdrawing your cooperation. That's what makes it a partnership rather than a conquest. But you're humans, Doctor, Veltara said, as if that explained everything. Yes, we're humans. We're the species that looked at a planet covered in poisonous gas, deadly weather, and creatures specifically evolved to kill us, and decided it would make a nice home if we just changed a few things. Reeves smiled with what Marcus would have recognized as her closing argument expression. Now we're looking at a galaxy full of civilizations that have accidentally created inefficient systems, and we're thinking the same thing. The chamber's life support systems hummed quietly in the background. More quietly and efficiently than they had since the station's construction, thanks to improvements that had been implemented without authorization, without compensation, and without anyone quite realizing they were happening. So what happens now? Director Kosinarik asked. Now? We continue with the trade conference. You offer us contracts, we fulfill them competently. We identify problems, we fix them efficiently. You benefit from improved systems, we benefit from expanded opportunities. Everyone prospers. And if we refuse, then you refuse. Earth has plenty of other projects. Reeves's tone remained diplomatically pleasant. Though I should mention that the rare Earth shipments currently in transit represent about 60% of the galaxy's industrial capacity for the next quarter. It would be unfortunate if those shipments were delayed while we resolved diplomatic difficulties. The threat was delivered with such casual pleasantness that it took several seconds for its implications to register. When they did, the chamber filled with the multilingual sound of dozens of species experiencing collective realization. You're holding galactic civilization hostage, Thresh said weakly. We're participating in galactic civilization, Reeves corrected. The fact that our participation has become essential isn't a threat, it's an achievement. But you could destroy everything. Counselor, anyone could destroy everything. Destruction is easy. Creation, maintenance, improvement, those are difficult. She gestured again to the assembled delegates. You invited Earth to this conference because you thought we were too primitive to be dangerous. You were right, in a way. We are too primitive to be dangerous. How is that possible? Because dangerous implies a threat to the status quo. We're not threatening the status quo. We're improving it beyond recognition. Ambassador Reeves collected her diplomatic materials, such as they were. Same time tomorrow, then? I believe the next item on the agenda is infrastructure development contracts. As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, leaving behind air that was cleaner, gravity that was more stable, and lighting that was optimally calibrated for mixed-species environments, Director Kosinarik found herself staring at her neutronium gavel and wondering if it qualified as a weapon. Then she wondered if it mattered, given that the beings she'd been trying to negotiate with had apparently weaponized helpfulness itself. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had spent eons developing bigger guns, better shields, and more sophisticated ways to threaten each other into compliance. Meanwhile, somewhere in an unremarkable spiral arm, a species of cooperative apex predators had been developing the most devastating weapon of all, the ability to make themselves indispensable. And they'd just demonstrated it by asking if anyone needed help with anything else.